And like I said, that was something we haven't seen with any other president. And to me, actually, it was shocking enough that I didn't think it would stand. I thought that would be sort of an outlier. But now look at this. Gallup just did its follow-up poll, now 1 month into Trump being back in office, and his numbers have gotten worse. He's not -1 anymore. Now he's -6, which makes him, at this point in his term, not only the most disliked and unpopular president in 70-plus years of Gallup polling.
While Donald Trump and Elon Musk claim to love free speech, their actions make it clear that it's actually the opposite that's true. And while there are many journalists who exercise their freedom of speech, and in doing so make Donald Trump's blood boil, it was really clear who's at the top of that list during a speech and a post from Donald Trump today. It's Maddow. And some recent reporting that she has done that is driving Donald Trump crazy, so much so that, like I said, he started to attack her. And we are going to get into all of that. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me now. Before we get into that clip of Donald Trump melting down, we of course have to check out what Maddow is reporting to get him so angry. So let's take a look at that right here.
The data is in. It's been a month officially as of today for this new presidential term. And what the data says, sort of broadly, bottom line, is that the country kind of hates this guy. Yeah, I shouldn't say hate. It's not the right word. It's not a nice word. Maybe it's can't stand him. Or maybe I shouldn't characterize it at all. I'll show you the numbers. I will say we probably should have seen this coming. I didn't necessarily believe that it was coming this far, this fast, but, you know, right out of the gate, Gallup did polling just after the inauguration. They did their first poll on public opinion of Trump in this second term, starting immediately after the inauguration. Literally, they had their first poll in the field the first full day Trump was in office, the day after he was sworn in. That is the definition of the honeymoon period, right? That's when you are at your high water mark in terms of what people are expecting from you and hoping for from you. But in that first Gallup poll of this presidential term, sort of shockingly, Trump was already underwater. In his first week in office, more Americans disapproved of him than approved of him. I mean, only by 1 point, but still, that's unheard of. That's a more than unusual thing in presidential polling. Gallup, in fact, said at the time that in the 70-plus years they have been doing presidential polling, Donald Trump is the only president for whom his approval ratings were underwater right at the start of his term in office, meaning more people disliked him than liked him. So in that first week Gallup poll, Trump was underwater, 47 approving, 48% disapproving. So that means he was coming in at -1. And like I said, that was something we haven't seen with any other president. And to me, actually, it was shocking enough that I didn't think it would stand. I thought that would be sort of an outlier. But now look at this. Gallup just did its follow-up poll, now 1 month into Trump being back in office, and his numbers have gotten worse. He's not -1 anymore. Now he's -6. Which makes him, at this point in his term, not only the most disliked and unpopular president in 70-plus years of Gallup polling, Gallup says it actually puts him 15 points below the average polling for presidents. Again, over the last 72 years in which they have been doing this polling. At this point in a presidential term, 1 month in, the average is 15 points higher than where Trump is right now. Nobody has ever started off a presidential term this poorly in the eyes of the American people.
The numbers are in Donald, and they're historically bad, like so bad, it is almost impressive how bad. And it's the reason why, in the beginning of Donald Trump's presidency, when unfortunately too many Democrats in Congress thought, well, maybe people want us to work with him, maybe we should try to be bipartisan, maybe this is going to be, a legitimate agency in DOJ. I was pushing back against that so much because his policies are unpopular, and the things that people thought they were voting for were never going to happen. And that's what they have realized. And overwhelmingly, MAGA Republicans who voted for Donald Trump have realized that. And Trump isn't too happy that Rachel Maddow is sharing that news. That is why in 2 clips at CPAC, we can see that it's really starting to get under his skin. The first, of course, being him attacking Rachel Maddow, in the second being him lying about that approval rating. So let's take a look at both.
And our approval rating is now the highest ever across all demographics. Rasmussen just came out at 56%, Insider Advantage 56%, RMG Research 57%, and we have many polls in the mid-60s, one at 71%. We like that, 71.
Donald Trump also followed all of that up with MSNBC. Commonly known as MADDOW, is a threat to our democracy. Such lying and misrepresentation bad people at the top. So it's been a day of hate for Donald Trump, which means it's been like any other day. But clearly it is getting to him that the polling is tanking. And should we be surprised? But what's so funny about all of this is while people recognize that they hate Donald Trump, they kind of remember that it is largely Elon Musk, somehow even more than Trump, that is contributing to this bad polling, this bad taste in everyone in America's mouth around the Trump administration. It's so funny that this guy that he has really attached himself to at the hip, his clear co-president Elon Musk, is dragging him down so much. And it's the reason that I've said for so long that we need to center Elon, and all these conversations about the oligarchy forming around Donald Trump, the dark money that isn't, in investing itself in our politics, but has become our politics. That is what we have to point out. That is what we have to push back against. That Elon Musk is cutting funding for cancer research, getting rid of school lunch programs. Also, he can put more billions of dollars, how about steal more billions of dollars of our tax money for his companies? That's what it's all about, and it's not a good look. The Trump administration. And speaking of Elon, and speaking of Rachel Maddow, who's been doing a great job, so clearly, it's why Donald Trump is mad at her. She did a little bit more reporting on the Elon situation, if we could call it that. And yeah, you're really going to want to hear this.
Tesla shares have dropped 20% in value since Inauguration Day. Tesla sales in Europe have taken huge hits recently, down 40 or 50% or more in the largest markets in Europe. Overall, in the last year, globally, electric vehicle sales are up 25%, but Tesla sales are down 1%. And down 1% may not seem like that big a deal, even as the overall market for that type of vehicle is going up. But consider that minus 1% of that drop in Tesla sales this year follows the last 2 years in which Tesla sales were up 38% and up 40%. And now this year they're minus 1. Now, how does that kind of thing affect his ultimate role in what he's doing to our government and what he thinks of his public image, and what he's making the public think of him? I don't know, but I think the most reasonable thing to expect is that it's going to be unpredictable, because I think there's a lot of weird variables at play here. I mean, obviously, this is a personal crusade of his to destroy as much of the constitutional republic as he can, without any regard at all for him having any legitimate government authority or following any laws. The personal dynamic, in addition, between this campaign donor and the president himself is very unusual, given that the president seems to have personally empowered this guy without actually giving him a government job. So the personal dynamic between them is all that Elon Musk has to stand on in terms of what he is doing to our government. The dynamic between them is weird, in which the president is effectively sidelined while Elon Musk takes center stage. The president, in contrast, appears to be weak and sort of beside the point, while his campaign donor regularly upstages him and talks over him, both in interviews and in the Oval Office. I mean, that would be hard to take for even the least egotistical president. It remains to be seen how we'll play out with this one. Along those lines, I have to say, this is also very strange, late-breaking news. I'm not quite sure what to do with this at all, but you should know. CNN was first to report today that the Trump administration has made an unusual decision with regard to Elon Musk's phalanx of private personal bodyguards. Now, NBC has not confirmed this, but CNN is reporting, based on 3 law enforcement sources, that the administration had the U.S. Marshals Service officially deputize members of Elon Musk's team of private bodyguards. And that may sound like kind of a bureaucratic designation, but one practical consequence of that is that the Marshal Service may now allow Musk's team of personal bodyguards to carry weapons on federal property. Loaded weapons. CNN reports, quote, "Some people close to Trump's White House have been taken aback by the scale of security that has surrounded Elon Musk since he became a regular presence in Trump's orbit last year. Musk's security detail rivaled only that of the president himself," the sources observed. But now, with this decision by the U.S. Marshal Service, now Trump and Musk, when they're in the same place, like in the White House or on other federal property, they're both going to be surrounded by equally huge phalanxes of armed guards. One set of them, the Secret Service, presumably loyal to Trump, and the other set, also armed but private and loyal to Musk. But everybody's going to have their weapons? Sure, that's not weird at all. That's definitely not like Monty Python crossed with Shakespeare at all. What could possibly go wrong?
I thought it was going to be Donald Trump who would first be weaponizing the military, because he did talk about that to go after the enemy from within. But it seems like it's going to be Elon and his armed guards, which somehow he's allowed. Who's going to be doing that first? So I guess they're going to be having a competition there. This is just absolutely absurd. And again, this is why we need to center Elon. He is the one running the show into the ground. He is the one making the cuts. Donald Trump doesn't really care. He's old. He's tired. He's losing his mind every single day. And I wouldn't even be surprised. You know, people are talking about, does Trump want to run for a 3rd term? Does Elon want to run for a term? Is he going to try to get us to change the Constitution? I wouldn't be surprised for the person who is always talking so much about immigration. Elon, you're not from here, and we don't trust you. So maybe some deportation is in order for Elon Musk. I don't know. Seems like a good idea, and we're gonna have a couple more of those on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. Leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.